The little girl called 911 and said, "Dad locked me in the bathroom for many days and I'm very hungry."
Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
2:18 a.m. At the 911 Emergency Response Center, the night shift was manned by Sylvia Morgan, a seasoned dispatcher. But even she couldn't have predicted that the next call would drag her into a months-long nightmare. 911, this is Sylvia, please stay calm. What's happening? The sound of raindrops filtered through the line, accompanied by faint, labored breathing. Then came a voice, small, barely a whisper. "Miss, my name is Nora." Sylvia leaned toward the microphone, heart pounding. A child's voice, female, clearly terrified. She quickly typed a few characters into the system to begin recording and tracing the call. "Where are you, Nora? Can you tell me your address?" I don't know, it's so dark here. I'm cold." Sylvia glanced at her colleague and signaled for assistance in triangulating the location. On the screen, the signal flickered and then appeared, 18 Maple Street, outskirts of Columbus. A nearly deserted neighborhood, about 12 miles from downtown. "Nora, can you look around? Is anyone outside? I'm locked in the bathroom, it's been a long time. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I hear rats." Sylvia's chest tightened. She switched to a gentler tone, trying to keep the little girl talking. "It's okay, Nora. I'm here with you. I've already sent the police. They'll be there soon, you just need to keep holding on, okay?" A pause. Then a quiet sob. "Daddy said I had to be good, or I'd be locked up forever. I've been good, why isn't Daddy coming back?" A chill ran down Sylvia's spine. She could hear the sound of dripping water and a strange rustling, like fabric brushing against a wall. "Nora, is there anyone else in the house?" "I don't know, but someone was outside the door. I heard knocking earlier." Sylvia shot up from her seat, clutching her headset. She turned to the night watch commander, Lieutenant Ryan Parker, sitting at the adjacent desk. "Ryan. Child locked in a bathroom. Address is 18 Maple Street. There might be someone outside. Dispatch a unit immediately." Ryan grabbed his radio and issued the order. Outside, patrol officers Lydia Adams and Charles Miller responded without delay. Meanwhile, Sylvia kept Nora on the line. "Nora, can you tell me how long you've been in there?" "I don't know. I never see the sun, it's always night when I sleep." "Do you remember what day you were put there?" "Daddy said I was bad, so I had to be punished. I didn't dare ask. I don't have a calendar, just a mirror and a faucet." The connection started breaking up. Sylvia noticed the call signal faltering. "Nora, hang in there. Are you still there? Can you hear me? Miss, if Daddy comes back, don't tell him I called, he'll hit me." "It's okay. You're safe now. You were so brave, Nora. The police are almost there, they'll get you out." A faint click echoed like a lock turning or something gently pushed. Then silence. Sylvia held her breath. "Nora? Are you still there?" No response. "Nora? Can you still hear me?" Only static. And the steady sound of rain. "Damn it," Sylvia muttered, pulling off her headset, her face pale. She turned to Ryan. "I lost the connection." Ryan nodded gravely. "Lydia's unit just reached the road leading into that area. But the signal's weak. I'll contact dispatch to boost lights and support vehicles." Sylvia clenched her fists, her stomach in knots. This was no longer just a routine shift. It had become a race against time. 20 minutes away by car, the patrol vehicle turned onto a narrow, flooded road. The neighborhood was dotted with a few houses, many abandoned. Streetlights flickered. A scrawny stray dog growled from the shadows. "Number 18, this is it," Charles said, cutting the engine. He and Lydia stepped out. They shined their flashlights. The apartment was on the second floor, the wooden stairs damp and reeking of mold. No one else was in the building. The silence was eerie. Any lights on inside? Lydia asked. No. It's pitch black. They reached the door to Unit 201. The outer lock was still in place, but it looked like it had been recently tampered with. Police. Is anyone in there? Charles knocked. Silence. I don't like this feeling, Lydia murmured. They exchanged a look, then used a crowbar to break in. Bang! The door burst open. A rush of damp air and musty stench spilled out. Their eyes hadn't yet adjusted to the darkness when they heard dripping water somewhere inside. I'll go left, you take the right, Charles said. They moved cautiously, flashlights sweeping the space. The living room was empty, no furniture, just some cardboard boxes and a tattered blanket. At the end of the hallway was the bathroom. The door was secured from the outside with a thin copper wire. Lydia snipped it and pushed the door open. The sight stunned them both. A little girl was curled up beneath the sink, trembling from the cold. Her clothes were soaked, her face pale, eyes half shut. Oh my God, Lydia dropped her flashlight and rushed to hold the child. Sweetheart, can you hear me? I was good, don't leave me. She whispered before fainting in Lydia's arms. Charles activated his radio. Child located. Unconscious. Send medical assistance immediately. Behind them, the door to Unit 201 stood motionless, as if it had just swallowed a nightmare. Inside, the mold clung to every corner. Peeling walls, dust-covered floor, torn calendar pages hanging askew. The last marked month was March 2023. Nearly 6 months without anyone living here. Charles muttered, sweeping his flashlight toward the rotted ceiling where water was dripping from a corroded pipe. No one lived here, someone did. But not as a human being, Lydia replied, her eyes fixed on a small purple plastic bowl beneath a table, filled with moldy crumbs. The sound of an ambulance siren in the distance jolted them back to the moment. Lydia still cradled the girl in her arms, her body trembling slightly. Nora's eyes remained shut, her lips blue from cold and dehydration. Charles, get a blanket from the car. She's in cold shock. Charles dashed down the stairs, calling into his radio. Requesting medical personnel immediately. Female child in severe dehydration, hypothermia, and likely trauma. Lydia gently laid the girl on a rotted wooden chair in the living room. She turned to Ryan, who had just entered with 2 crime scene techs. No adults in the apartment. But this place isn't abandoned. This isn't a residence, it's a prison. Ryan squinted, bending down to pick up a tiny purple slipper, caked in dirt and plaster. This place is a trap. A real one. The team split up to search the remaining rooms. At the end of the hallway, they found a small room with a heavy bolt lock on the outside. Lydia looked at Ryan and nodded. Bust it open. 2 hard blows with the crowbar. The door burst open, revealing a scene that made everyone freeze. A desktop computer was still on. The screen was awake, no screensaver, no password. Several folders were clearly visible. CM_Nora, log_day 43, client_France, tools. Shut it down. Now, Ryan ordered, but Lydia had already snapped a photo of the entire screen. A forensic tech stepped in, immediately plugging in an external hard drive to back up the data. The light from the monitor cast a pale glow across the wall, which was covered in photos of the little girl. Some showed Nora studying, others showed her sleeping. All were numbered. In the corner of the room, a small blue plastic chair sat facing the bed. Above the air conditioning unit, a disguised mini camera had been installed. Jesus Christ, Charles whispered as he entered with the blanket. This wasn't just surveillance, Lydia said, pointing to a diagram pinned behind the door, a detailed layout of the room, camera placements, blind spots, activity schedule, and one corner marked in red ink, silent/no resistance. Charles's hands trembled as he laid the blanket over the girl. Lydia stepped into the hallway, eyes red and glassy. "I need some air." Ryan stood motionless for a few seconds. Then he moved into the adjacent bedroom, which appeared to have been lived in. The mattress still had a slight indentation, the bedsheet stained with brown marks, a black backpack hung from the closet corner. "He locked the child up, but slept right next door," Ryan said. "He wasn't afraid of being caught. This was a control center. He stayed here, ate here, ran everything just 3 meters from the girl." A forensic tech shouted from the bathroom where they had found Nora earlier. "There are wires and sensors under the drain. He was monitoring the water temperature." And over here, another technician pointed behind the mirror. A tiny hole had been drilled and fitted with a mini camera, wires running through the wall into the control room. Lydia returned, her face like stone. "We're standing inside a child torture studio." Charles opened the kitchen cabinet and found a bag of dry food, several rolls of duct tape, and a coil of ultra-durable climbing rope. There was a plan to escape. But why did he leave the girl behind? Ryan's brows knit together. Could have been forced. Or, he paused, or she was no longer useful to him. A technician stepped over, holding a long knife with a plastic handle. The blade was caked with dried, blackened blood. "Found it under the bed. There's blood on the grip. Send it for immediate analysis." Outside, the ambulance siren wailed. 2 paramedics hurried up the stairs. Lydia led them into the living room. They examined the child in silence, their expressions heavy. "She needs 4 fluids immediately. Stage 2 dehydration. Severe hypoglycemia. An hour later and she might not have made it," one said. Charles cleared the way as a nurse inserted the 4-line. Another gently lifted the girl's head and placed an oxygen mask over her face. "What's her name?" one of them asked. Lydia hesitated, then softly replied, "Nora. Her name is Nora." Ryan stepped into the hallway, pulled out his phone, and called the criminal division directly. "This is Lieutenant Ryan Parker. I'm requesting a special investigation unit. High probability of cybercrime and human trafficking involvement. Address, 18, Maple Street. Secure the perimeter immediately." The rain outside hadn't let up. But inside apartment 201, the true face of a nightmare had only just begun to reveal itself. Ohio University Hospital, Pediatric Ward. The scent of antiseptic hung in the icy air, fluorescent lights casting a sterile, unfamiliar white across the space. On the small bed in room 305, Nora lay still. Her frail hand was attached to an oxygen mask covering half of her pale face. Outside, Lieutenant Ryan Parker and Officer Lydia Adams stood beside the attending physician, Dr. Frederick Hayes. Though exhausted from a long surgery, the doctor was focused as he read the medical report. "There are multiple old scars on her body, mainly on the buttocks, thighs, and back," Dr. Frederick said, his voice dropping low. "Some suggest repeated strikes from a hard object, possibly a whip or leather strap. Signs of prolonged starvation, likely for days at a time." Lydia clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palm. "And no one knew, all this time. We found no signs of sexual abuse so far, but psychologically, she may have suffered serious trauma." Ryan nodded in gratitude, then turned to Lydia. "I'm heading back to the station to coordinate with records. Stay with the girl. If there's any sign of her waking up, call me immediately." Columbus Police Headquarters. The special data room remained lit past 3 a.m. 2 forensic analysts, Marcus Rivera and Eva Spencer, sat before the screen, extracting data from the hard drive recovered from apartment 201. "Got it. Full name, Julian Bennett," Eva read aloud. "Born 1982. Previously lived in Dayton, moved to Columbus in 2019. Any legal documentation for child custody? Yes. There's a guardianship registration, but it's odd. Only one ID on file, an old state-issued ID belonging to the mother, Maria Bennett. She was homeless, died of pneumonia in 2020. No other family records. So he exploited the lack of oversight and registered guardianship. Eva frowned. But here's what's weirder. Julian was investigated for child abuse back in 2017, in Youngstown. Marcus jerked around. He was investigated and still granted custody. Exactly. That case was dropped for lack of evidence. And from 2020 until now, he's basically vanished from the system. Marcus typed in a few commands and pulled up a location map. No official residence. No registered job. No bank accounts. No medical reports. Not a single legitimate trace in the last 5 years. Eva stared at the screen and muttered, "He's a ghost." Back at the hospital, dawn was beginning to break. Pale light streamed through the foggy window glass. Lydia sat by Nora's bedside, eyes fixed on the child's tiny, still face. Suddenly, a sharp breath made her jump. Nora blinked. Her eyes fluttered open, scanning the room in panic. "You're safe now, you're in the hospital, honey, you're safe," Lydia whispered, leaning closer. "I'm Lydia. I brought you out of that room." Nora moved her lips. "Daddy, where's Daddy? Can you tell me about your dad? Do you know his name? He told me to call him Daddy. I don't know his real name, he said never tell anyone." Lydia steadied herself and took notes. "How long were you with him?" "A long time, since Mommy went to sleep and never woke up. Daddy said she went far away, so he took care of me." "Did you go to school?" "I learned at home, he showed me videos and gave me things to write. I wasn't allowed to look out the window." Lydia glanced at the door, where a nurse quietly walked by. She turned back. "Did you ever see anyone else? Did anyone ever come into the house?" Nora shook her head weakly. "Just Daddy. I had to be good, if I made noise, he'd get mad." Her voice cracked as tears spilled. "I'm scared. I'm scared of the dark." Lydia took the girl's hand, her eyes burning with fury. "You don't have to be afraid anymore, Nora. Never again." Meanwhile, at police headquarters, Ryan received a call from Interpol. "Parker speaking. We have confirmation. Julian Bennett previously worked as an IT technician for a fake charity in Mexico, shut down in 2018 over suspected child abuse. And he was never arrested? Insufficient evidence. Since 2019, he's disappeared from all official records." Ryan slammed his fist on the desk. He planned everything. He knew how to vanish. Eva walked in, placing a file compiled from their internal system on the desk. "This is the full report. Includes the Youngstown investigation, the Mexico charity, Nora's custody registration, and rental history. Every piece has administrative holes." Ryan skimmed it, scowling. He's not just a deviant. He's methodical. A predator with a system. Eva nodded. The girl was locked up for nearly 3 years. No one noticed. No doctors, no neighbors, no school records. She practically didn't exist. Back at the hospital, Lydia was reading a fairy tale to Nora in a calm, warm voice. The little girl smiled faintly. "Please read more." "Of course. But only if you promise to rest so you can get better." "I promise." The door creaked open. Charles stepped in, holding a small bag with warm milk and a pastry. "These are her favorite rice cakes. From the bakery. Just came out of the oven." Nora smiled for the first time. A weak smile but genuine. Charles set the bag on the table and looked at Lydia. "She'll need a long time, but at least, she's alive. At Data Analysis Room 3 of the Columbus Police Department, the harsh light from the monitor cast a pale hue over Eva Spencer's face. Next to her, Marcus Rivera sat with a hand covering his mouth, frozen, as the third video ended. "No, this can't be," Eva whispered hoarsely. "This isn't just surveillance, it's a crime." They had watched more than 17 video clips extracted from a folder labeled CM_Nora. All files were time-stamped and dated, 12H15_24-3, 01H02_25-3, 04H40_28-3. Each clip had been crudely edited, focusing mostly on Nora's most vulnerable moments, while sleeping, crying, curled up under the sink, or just sitting silently in a corner. Marcus opened the next file. The camera angle was from inside the bathroom, seemingly hidden between tiles beneath the faucet. "Duration, 6 minutes, 22 seconds, he said. No one replied. In the video, Nora sat on the cold tile floor, hair tangled, dark circles under her eyes. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. The girl flinched and scrambled to the wall. A deep male voice came from off-screen. "Silence. No crying. You remember what Daddy said?" "Yes, sir." The video cut off abruptly. Eva clenched her fist. Julian Bennett, he didn't just imprison her, he recorded every moment of that child's suffering, and he turned it into merchandise. She switched to a folder labeled Client_France. Dozens of encrypted emails appeared, with hidden links attached. Some had been deleted, but several IP addresses were still traceable. He sold the videos on the dark web. Each clip had a unique code, and each client was tagged, Eva said. Marcus opened a PDF translation of one of the emails. "Nora has been trained properly. No screaming, no resistance. HD camera, stable audio. Price for 5-clip package, $400, payable in Bitcoin." Marcus trembled. He called it training. He referred to a 7-year-old girl's endurance as a standardized product. Eva scrolled to the bottom of the email. A highlighted note read, "Deliver new footage before June 1st, then proceed with handover if all goes well." "Handover?" Marcus asked, face pale. "Sell the girl to the buyer. Export her overseas," Eva said quietly. Ryan Parker entered at that moment, his eyes heavy. "Any updates?" Eva stood, pointing at the screen. "We've identified at least 26 different clips. All involve Nora. There are also traces of other children's voices in some of them, suggesting Nora might not have been the first victim. Any way to identify those voices?" "There are 2 unfamiliar voices. One sounds Mexican, the other American besides Julian's. Likely remote clients issuing commands." Ryan clenched his fists. "We're dealing with a network. And Nora is just one link." Back at the hospital, Lydia and Charles were feeding Nora some thin rice porridge. The girl looked more alert. She wasn't speaking much, but the terror had faded from her eyes. "Feeling a little better?" Lydia asked. Nora nodded slightly. "You're nice." I've never met anyone this nice." Lydia smiled, holding back tears. "You don't need to be afraid anymore. You can tell me anything. Whatever you remember." Nora lowered her head, whispering, "Daddy put a camera in the mirror. He said, it was to protect me. But I knew, that's not why." Charles held his breath. "Do you remember any other cameras?" "In the faucet, in a wall hole. I tried to cover them once, but Daddy knew right away, then he punished me." "What kind of punishment?" Lydia asked gently. Nora curled up, gripping her blanket. "Locked in the dark. No food, no water, no sleep." Lydia held her tiny hand. "It's over, Nora. You made it out." At the police station, the tech team was scanning all devices seized from the apartment. Technician Joseph Taylor cracked the second hard drive containing Julian Bennett's personal journal. "Here it is," he called out. Text file, training_notes.txt. The room went silent as he read. April 3rd, Nora still cries during clothing changes. Needs more silence conditioning. April 10th, increasing bathroom confinement time. Add 10 minutes daily. April 21st, can now film while she sleeps, reacts well, no waking. May 2nd, started using Bluetooth speaker for remote commands. High effectiveness. Eva turned away, tears rolling down her cheeks. He documented it like a project timeline. Ryan said nothing. He just stood there, eyes fixed on the final line on the screen. Nora is tamed. Time to prepare the trip. Back at the hospital, Nora whispered to Lydia. "I once heard Daddy say the phone would ring if a client wanted to see me. Did you see him use the computer then?" "Yes, he was always in that room with the locked door. I wasn't allowed in. But, once he forgot to turn off the screen." "What did you see?" Lydia leaned closer. "Another girl. Smaller than me. With a black eye. Daddy said, she was an old sample." Charles froze in place. "Did you hear that?" Lydia asked him. "I did. He's had other victims. Maybe more than one." Just then, from the cybersecurity server room, a technician called out. "Lieutenant Parker. We found a voice log unencrypted. Here." They played the audio file. Julian's voice came through clearly. "If the next one's as hard to train as the last, I won't take it. At least Nora knows how to behave." Ryan slammed his hand on the desk. "We're out of time. He's done this before. That girl might already be dead." The next morning, in the emergency briefing room of the Columbus Police Department, Lieutenant Ryan Parker slammed a thick file onto the table. His eyes were bloodshot from a sleepless night. 3 days. He vanished from radar exactly 3 days before Nora's call. A monster who knew what was coming. Next to him sat Inspector Beatrice Mitchell, a cybercrime specialist from Columbus. She nodded, her voice cold. "We confirm, the IP address from apartment 201's computer had been flagged by Interpol a week ago for suspected dark web activity. A leak must have tipped him off, and he bolted. No cash withdrawals, no vehicle movement, no CCTV footage. It's like he vanished into thin air," Charles growled, running his hands through his hair. Beatrice laid a forensic scan photo on the table. It showed a dismantled Hello Kitty toy box. Inside, a train ticket to Paris via Phoenix, scheduled for 9:16 p.m. on May 28, and a set of forged documents under the name Matthew Vaughn. "We've traced the ID," Beatrice said. "He's been using fake identities since 2020. These papers were produced in Akron by a black market operation we attempted to bust unsuccessfully. He had been planning his escape for a long time," Lydia said through clenched teeth. "Not just escape," Ryan added grimly. "He was preparing for the next handover. Remember the email about transferring Nora if she was stable? He probably intended to move her out of the United States next month." That same afternoon, at Interpol's Southwestern Europe office, Agent Ethan Rogers from Mexico connected via video call with the Columbus investigation team. Julian Bennett was once suspected of being involved with an organization called the White Wings. "It's an underground child exploitation network based in Tijuana," he reported. "We raided one of their locations back in 2018, but he fled just hours before the operation." Hearing his name again. "I've got a bad feeling he's returning to his old path." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "Any signs he's already reached Mexico?" "Not directly. But the forged documents listed Tijuana as the destination. And there was a recent email on his computer, transfer at predetermined location Calle del Norte, first week of June." At the hospital, Nora was growing more lucid. Lydia showed her several pictures of items recovered from the apartment, a backpack, a hat, a toy box, even a photo of a strange man. Do you recognize anything here? Nora pointed at the toy box. That's my toy box. But Daddy wouldn't let me open it. I asked once and he screamed, said it was a secret. I never asked again. Lydia bit her lip. Inside were train tickets and forged documents. That means, he was planning to leave you behind. Nora was silent for a long moment, then whispered, I was bad, so Daddy didn't want me anymore. Lydia flinched. No. Nora, no child is ever bad. You were a victim. Charles stood silently by, his hands gripping the armrest. His face betrayed a burning rage he didn't try to hide. At police headquarters, the cyber team uncovered a new file recovered from the old computer. It was a photo of a handwritten note that had been deleted but restored using image extraction software. The message read: The girl is no longer of use. I don't want her. Erase all data before May 31st. Ryan stared at it, stunned. He discarded her. Like broken junk. Beatrice looked hard at the screen, then spoke quietly. He calculated this. If the system got compromised, he'd dump the girl to draw attention toward the US while he disappeared. He's not just a pervert, Eva said, cutting in. He's a professional node in the network. Ryan turned to the criminal unit. Contact police in Mexico, Italy, and Nicaragua. Issue an international warrant. Every border checkpoint must be on high alert. Charles took charge of tracing the train station records in Phoenix. 2 hours later, he called back. He used the ticket. A passenger named Matthew Vaughn boarded the 9:16 p.m. train. But no camera footage. No footage. Ryan barked. Why not? The station's surveillance system glitched. Went offline for over 30 minutes exactly during that train's departure. Lydia whispered, too perfect a coincidence. That evening, at the Pima County Border Surveillance Center, a report came in. A man had been spotted hiking through the forest from the U.S. into Mexico, carrying a large backpack. Local officers pursued him, but he vanished into the fog and treacherous terrain. That could be him, Beatrice said. We found a jacket identical to one Julian used to wear, abandoned 300 meters from the sighting. Ryan shot to his feet. We've only got one thread left. If he slips away now, we won't see him again for 5 years and we don't know how many more children will vanish in that time. In the hospital room, Nora suddenly sat bolt upright in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. Someone called me, in a dream. Number 4. Lydia wrapped her arms around the girl. It's okay. You're safe now. But in her eyes, a storm was brewing. She knew, there were still 3 other children out there or more. And Julian Bennett was still free. The next morning, room 305 at Ohio University Hospital's pediatric ward basked in soft early summer sunlight. A heavy silence hung in the air as a team of child trauma specialists began their first interview with Nora. Present were Lydia Adams, child psychologist Dr. Marina Sullivan, and Stephen Davis, the note-taker from the Child Crimes Task Force. Nora sat curled up on the bed, hugging a small stuffed bear that Lydia had bought from a toy shop nearby. Beneath the warm yellow light, she kept her head down, fingering the bear's ear in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Marina gently spoke. Your name is Nora, right? I'm Marina. I'm here just to talk with you. You don't have to say anything unless you want to, okay? Nora pressed her lips together. Silence. Lydia sat beside her, voice soft as a breeze. Do you remember me? I was the one who carried you out of that bathroom. I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Nora looked up. Her eyes met Lydia's and something seemed to melt away. I remember, you said. Don't be scared. Lydia nodded, her eyes misting over. Marina continued. Can you tell us what a normal day looked like, before we found you? Nora gave a small nod. Her voice was faint, like echoing from a deep, dark well. I woke up when the bell rang. Daddy put a clock outside the door. It rang 3 times, and I had to get up. If I didn't, I wouldn't get to eat. What did you have for breakfast? Stale bread, no water. Daddy said not to waste water because it was cut off, but I don't think that was true. What did you do after that? I sat in front of the computer. There were lessons. I had to copy them into a notebook. If I got anything wrong, I got hit, with the leather whip hanging in the room. Stephen paused his writing and looked up. Leather whip? Nora nodded. Daddy made it from an old belt. Sometimes, he tied electrical wire to the end. The air thickened. Marina sat upright, taking a deep breath. Were you ever allowed to leave the house? No. The door was always locked. The windows were covered with cardboard. Daddy said it was dangerous outside, that I'd be taken away if I ever left. Did you ever try to escape? Nora was silent for a long time. Then she softly said. One time. I used a hairpin to try to unlock the door. It took me 2 weeks to plan it. I learned how to bend the pin from a life skills video. But Daddy found out. What happened then? Marina asked gently. He locked me in the bathroom for 2 days, no food, no blanket. Lights off. I couldn't see anything, just the sound of rats. Lydia couldn't hold back her tears. She turned away, trying not to cry in front of the child. A few minutes passed before Nora spoke again, her voice flat, like she was telling someone else's story. At night, Daddy would turn on the camera and leave. I heard the door lock. He said it was to check if I behaved. One time, I talked to my teddy bear. He heard it. The next day, I wasn't allowed to eat at all. Stephen interjected, did your dad ever touch you in a way that felt wrong? Nora was silent for a long time, then gently shook her head. No, but he filmed me when I bathed. He said it was a security camera, for safety, but I knew it wasn't. Marina glanced at Stephen and subtly signaled not to push further in that direction. She turned back with a warm smile. You're very brave, Nora. I'm proud of you. Not everyone can survive what you did. Nora didn't smile, but her eyes softened. She looked at Lydia. You know, I used to think I was the only person in the world. No one ever talked to me. No cars, no people, just rats and dripping water. Lydia held the girl's hand. But now you know, right? You're not alone. I'm here. And many more people are here for you. That afternoon, Nora was allowed to draw as part of her therapy. She drew the bathroom a shadowy figure standing outside the door. In the corner, a pair of large eyes peered through a gap in the tiles. The drawing made Marina step into the hallway to breathe. Stephen stood next to her, shaking his head. Nothing captures it better than this. God. Late that night, Lydia and Charles sat together, no longer in official roles, just 2 wounded people connected by a shared horror. I've never seen a child like her, Charles, Lydia said. Not just because of what happened, but because of the silence. She endured it all without a single cry. Charles was quiet. I used to work the border. I've seen kids starved, abused. But never turned into a ghost. Because to him, Nora wasn't a person, Lydia whispered. She was a product. A commodity. Charles lit a cigarette but didn't smoke it. He clenched the lighter in his hand, his gaze dark. If we catch him, I don't know if I'll be able to control myself. The next morning, Marina gave her official report. Nora is showing signs of severe post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. She's likely to have long-term phobias of confined spaces, darkness, and locking sounds. She'll need extensive therapy. Ryan Parker read the report, then set it down on the table and stood up. We can't fail. Not after knowing what that little girl's been through. Lydia nodded. He won't get away. At the Joint Crime Analysis Center, shared between U.S. authorities and Interpol, the glow from dozens of screens lit up the tense faces of the investigation team. In the heavy silence, the only sounds were the steady tapping of keys and rustling of files like the heartbeat of a nightmare with no end in sight. We've decrypted over 60% of the data from the second hard drive, Eva Spencer said, her voice dry. It doesn't just contain video clips, it has contracts, addresses, and names of involved parties. Beatrice Mitchell from the Organized Crime Unit flipped through a red file in her hand. There are at least 9 emails confirming payments from foreign accounts. The money was transferred in cryptocurrency, mostly Bitcoin, through temporary wallets that disappear after a few hours. Where did the money go? Ryan Parker asked. Through a relay server in Panama. Then it was laundered via a network in Nicaragua. Charles frowned. All that, just to sell videos of locked up, abused children? Eva replied, not just videos. The latest emails mention live shipments. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Meaning actual trafficking. Beatrice pushed a printed image across the table, an email screenshot titled shipment_June_confirmed. Sample number 4 is ready. Delivery address, Calle del Norte 51, Tijuana. Receiver, Lucas Art, estimated, first week of June. Charles gasped. Sample #4, that's Nora. Eva nodded slowly. All data matches. Video dates, appearance notes, behavior descriptions like low reaction, no screaming, it's her. Ryan slammed the table, eyes red with rage. If not for that call, Nora would have been trafficked like freight. In the image forensics lab, Joseph Taylor was analyzing an unopened video file. Under dim lighting, the footage revealed a bare room. The camera was mounted high, a mesh barrier in one corner. Inside, a girl smaller than Nora, around 5 years old with blonde hair and blue eyes, sat hugging her knees, trembling. Joseph froze, heart pounding. A male voice echoed from a speaker. Hold still. The client is watching. The clip ended after 3 minutes. The file was named, client_Netherlands_03. At the hospital, Marina Sullivan was speaking with Nora, who was now well enough to sit in a chair near the window. Did you ever hear your dad talk about Mexico? Yes, he said if I was good, I'd be taken to meet nice people in another country, where there's lots of toys and food. Did he ever say who would be picking you up? One time, I heard Daddy on the phone say, Lucas wants the new clip, says sample number 4 is ready. Marina jotted it down quickly, Lucas. Sample #4. Nora stared out the window as the wind stirred the leaves. She whispered. I don't want to be a sample. I just want to have a mom. At the FBI Columbus office, a video conference lit up the screen with 3 faces from Mexico, Canada, and Belize. We've begun a joint investigation into the International Child Trafficking Network, Agent Ethan Rogers announced. Calle del Norte used to be a storage facility for an import company, but it's been abandoned since last year. At that site, we found traces of a soundproof room and dismantled mini surveillance systems. Ryan asked, any DNA or physical evidence? Not yet. But there's a symbol on the wall, a white butterfly. Same as the organization's name, the White Wings. Beatrice Mitchell activated the main display in the Columbus Command Center. A diagram lit up, showing the trafficking pipeline. 1. Children are selected from remote areas, usually without relatives, by operatives like Julian Bennett. 2. They are confined, trained, and filmed to test their response. 3. If deemed compliant, they're shipped via train, vehicle, or even fake passports. 4. Sold directly to clients through brokers at prices ranging from $12,000 to $50,000 per child. Charles slammed his fist into the wall. They treat children like pets, like products with barcodes. Ryan growled, and Julian Bennett is the US link. We cut him off before he reaches the drop point. Just then, a report came in from the Pima County Border Patrol. In a small village near Wayne National Forest, signs of a temporary shelter were found. Buried nearby was a bag containing an old laptop, SIM cards, and antidepressants, the same kind Ortega had in his medical records. Ryan stood up. Send a tactical team immediately. Deploy drones and K-9 units. He cannot get away. That evening, Nora was allowed to watch TV for the first time in 3 years. A cartoon was playing. She turned to Lydia and softly asked, "Are the kids in the movie real?" Lydia nodded. "Yes. And you're one of them." "I'm not like them. I don't know how to play." "I'll teach you. The whole world will teach you, from the beginning." That evening, at the conclusion of the administrative meeting, Beatrice read the final analysis aloud. If not for Nora's phone call that night, she would have been transported to Mexico within 5 days. From there, she would have disappeared like at least 17 other children previously identified within the network. Ryan exhaled heavily, eyes fixed on the photo of Nora printed on the case file. One little girl, one faint call, exposed an entire criminal system. Nearly a month had passed since her rescue. At the center, Nora didn't act out, didn't cry, but she didn't smile either. She rarely spoke to anyone except Lydia Adams, who continued visiting every afternoon after her shift, bringing cookies, coloring books, or sometimes just sitting silently beside her. That morning, as Lydia stepped into the courtyard, she saw Nora drawing with chalk on the concrete, a flower, a house, a woman with curly hair. "Who are you drawing?" Lydia asked softly, sitting beside her. Nora answered slowly without looking up. "Miss Lucy." Lydia froze for a second. She knew Nora had never met Lucy Reynolds, the officer who had carried her out of that freezing bathroom. After the incident, Lucy had been reassigned to Interpol's human trafficking unit and hadn't returned to the hospital. "You remember her? She was the first person to hold me and not hurt me. Her jacket smelled like jasmine." Lydia nodded, gently placing a hand on Nora's back. "Would you like to see Miss Lucy again?" Nora blinked. "Yes, but I think she's busy." "No, she's not." A familiar voice spoke from behind. The little girl turned around. Standing in the sunlight was a woman in plain clothes, curly brown hair tied back neatly, holding a small jasmine plant. Lucy Reynolds. Nora stood frozen for a few seconds. Then, as if by instinct, she ran into her arms. "Miss Lucy. I missed you." Lucy knelt down, wrapping her arms around her. Her voice trembled. "I missed you too, Nora. I've been waiting every day to see you again." Later that day, during an administrative meeting at the Child Welfare Center, Lucy presented her adoption application. Sitting across from her was Director Martha Roberts, a stern, older woman with a soft heart for children. "Lucy, you know Nora's case is extremely complicated. She has no legal birth certificate, and her biological mother's identity is unclear. Adoption will be very difficult even for a police officer like you." Lucy didn't hesitate. "I've already filed with family court. I don't want Nora to live one more day without someone by her side. She deserves a mother." Martha looked at Lucy for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. We'll give you full support. But you need to be prepared. It could take 6 months. Maybe longer." Lucy smiled. "I can wait. I've waited 32 years to become a mother. I can wait a little more." Meanwhile, in Wayne National Forest, near the Mexican border, the International Task Force discovered a makeshift tent deep in the fog. No one was inside, but the signs were fresh food cans, cigarette butts, and a map marked with a route from Hocking County to Ciudad Juarez. Ryan Parker arrived personally at the scene. He was here. He left less than 48 hours ago, said a local officer. Ryan picked up a blood-stained brown handkerchief. He's injured. Agent Ethan Rogers from Mexico stood beside him. Tracking dogs followed the trail to a village near Ciudad Juarez. We're closing in. There's no way out. Month 3. Nora had adjusted to her new routine. She began attending special classes with other children at the center, and each afternoon, Lucy picked her up for walks in the park. One evening, while the two were eating ice cream on a park bench, Nora asked, "Miss Lucy, if one day I get taken away again, would you come find me?" Lucy paused. Then she leaned down, her eyes steady. "If I had to cross the world, swim through rivers, climb mountains, I would find you. Because you're my daughter." For the first time, Nora smiled. Truly smiled. No hesitation. No fear. Month 4. The family court officially opened the hearing for Nora Reynolds' adoption, the new name she had chosen herself. Lydia, Charles, Marina, and even Dr. Frederick were present to testify. At the witness stand, the judge asked, "Miss Reynolds, why do you want to adopt a child with such a traumatic past?" Lucy answered firmly, "Because I used to be a child nobody wanted. I grew up in an orphanage. If it weren't for a teacher who believed in me, I wouldn't have become a police officer. Now it's my turn to believe in Nora." While everyone awaited the verdict, a report from Mexican police arrived like a lightning bolt. Julian Bennett had been arrested. He was found hiding in the basement of an abandoned chapel in Ciudad Juarez, disguised as a traveling monk. He didn't resist arrest. He simply repeated one sentence. "I was just fulfilling orders. I'm not the only one." Ryan received the news by phone. He stepped into the courtroom and nodded to Lucy. "He's been caught." Lucy said nothing. Silent tears streamed down her cheeks. By the end of month 6, the court issued its ruling: the adoption was granted. The case was officially closed with one line. The girl named Nora shall henceforth bear the surname Reynolds. A new birth certificate has been issued. September 12, Columbus. Gentle sunlight, high blue skies, and a light breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass from Goodale Park. At a small house on 48, High Street, a simple birthday party filled with laughter was underway. A cat-shaped birthday cake sat in the center of the table. On it, pink frosting spelled, "Nora Reynolds, 8 years old." The walls were adorned with purple balloons, her favorite color. Paper scraps lay scattered across the floor, with childlike drawings and the joyful sound of kids playing everywhere. "Careful. Don't bump the cake." Lydia laughed as she caught a plate from Mason, one of Nora's classmates. Charles stood in the corner, camera around his neck, snapping pictures non-stop. Golden moment. "Hey Lucy, smile." Lucy, in a sky-blue dress and her hair pinned up, was cutting the cake with Nora. The girl smiled shyly, glanced around, and then suddenly turned to Lucy, her voice clear and bright. "Mom. I want to stay with you, forever." The room fell completely silent. Lucy froze, hands trembling. Then she knelt down and hugged the little girl tight. "You will stay with me, forever. I promise." After the party, Marina Sullivan, the psychologist who had worked with Nora, sat with Lucy on the balcony, sipping tea. "I never thought she would recover this fast," Marina said. "In less than 7 months, from a child who didn't know how to smile, to today, calling you Mom." Lucy choked up. "It's not because I'm strong. It's because she is stronger than any of us imagined." Marina nodded, looking into the living room where Nora was doing a puzzle with her friends. Her eyes lit up each time she placed a piece correctly. There was no more darkness in those eyes. In Mexico, the Columbus court officially sentenced Julian Bennett on 5 counts: unlawful detention of a minor, physical abuse, trafficking illicit video content, conspiracy to traffic humans, and evading international arrest. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, to be served at Marion Federal Penitentiary. During the trial, he remained silent until the very end. Then, he uttered just one line. "I'm not the only one doing this." The judge struck the gavel. "No one said you'd bear this alone. But you'll be the first to pay." Following the trial, sweeping investigations were launched against the White Wings organization, with dozens of international arrest warrants issued. Nora's story spread rapidly across the United States. Major newspapers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Los Angeles Times ran features with headlines like "The Girl in the Bathroom, a Whisper in the Night That Saved a Network of Children." CNN aired a 30-minute segment chronicling Nora's journey from despair to rebirth. 2 months later, a nonprofit organization named Foundation Nora was officially founded by Lucy Reynolds and the team of officers who had helped crack the case. Its mission: to protect unaccompanied minors, monitor adoption filings, and provide psychological and legal support to abandoned or at-risk children. Its headquarters: just next to the Franklin Park playground where Nora liked to spend her weekends. During a televised interview, a reporter asked Nora, "Do you have anything you want to say to other kids who might be scared like you once were?" Nora paused, then answered clearly. "Call. Shout. Even if your voice is small, someone will hear you. I know, because someone heard me." Lucy sat beside her, quietly holding her hand. At the end of the school year at Clinton Elementary, a celebration unfolded across a courtyard filled with flags and flowers. Nora was awarded top student in art, a subject she once hated. In her brief speech, she stood at the microphone and said, "I used to not know what to draw. Because all I saw was walls, tiles, and faucets. But now, I draw flowers, my mom, my friends. And I love this world." The entire school erupted in applause. Marina and Lydia hugged, eyes red. Charles raised his camera and captured that historic moment. That night, in her cozy little room, Nora hung a new drawing on the wall. It showed a girl standing in front of a house with a flower garden. Beside her was a curly-haired woman. Above them, in the sky, it read, "I have the whole sky in my hands." Lucy entered and hugged her daughter from behind. "Ready for bed, princess?" "Mom, can we go to the park tomorrow?" "Of course." Nora closed her eyes and whispered, "I love you." Lucy replied softly, "And I love you more than anything in this world." The nightlight dimmed. Outside, the sky was full of stars. Nora's story teaches us that even in the darkest corners, one tiny spark of hope can save an entire life. Children cannot protect themselves, it is we, the adults, who must be their shield. One faint call can shatter an entire network of evil. Courage is not just strength, it is patience, love, and the unshakable belief that everyone deserves to be loved, to be saved, and to live fully as a human being.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.